Hello everybody, my name is Isaac Ashby from Steam Thinkers, and today we are making what's called a maglev train. I hope I'm saying that right. So a maglev train is basically a train that levitates above its track using magnets rather than sitting on wheels. So let me show you what we're making. So if you look real closely, you can see this car is hot glue string. This car is actually floating and it's not touching the magnets underneath, and it's got magnets on the bottom of the car. So that's what we'll be making today. Now this is a more advanced project, so be sure to ask for help from your parents or an adult or guardian or responsible teenager. But this is so super cool and fun to do. So let's get going. Okay, so what you'll need for this project is first 2 pieces of wood. These will serve as your rails. They should be straight and as smooth as possible. You can sand them down, or I'll show you other things you can do. But you want them to be smooth so that there's less friction between the train and the rails. Okay. One thing that works really well for this are wooden rulers, as long as they've got a flat side to them. Next, you will need 4 to 6 of these square blocks. They're cubes, and I get them in craft stores. They come in a package for about $2. You can get 15 or 20 of them. They're pretty cheap. Next, you will need a piece of wood that is about 1.5 inches wide to 2 inches wide, and maybe 2 to 3 inches long, and 3/4 of an inch thick. Or something, just a piece of wood about this side that's longer than it is wide. Something like that will work perfectly. Next, you will need a piece of cardboard that is the same size or slightly longer than your pieces of wood. Finally, you will need some magnetic tape. It comes in rolls like this. You can get it at most craft stores. I've even seen them for like $3 in the craft section of a grocery store before. So this stuff it comes in rolls like this, and you basically peel off the sticker, and this is sticky. Okay, something like this. And finally, glue. Now you can use wood glue or crafting glue for this project, and because I'm filming, I'm going to be using hot glue because it works really well quickly. Okay, so that's what I'll be using as my materials. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to make the train car. So let's put everything aside except for a pair of scissors, the magnetic tape, and the little wood piece. So first we need to, and you can use a pencil. I like using it for marking. So we need to make 2 pieces of magnet that are the same length as the car. Okay, so we'll mark it and then cut it. Then I'm going to mark it, measure it again, mark it with a pencil, and cut the piece off. Okay. Now I am going to peel off this sticky layer, or the paper covering the sticky layer, and I am going to stick it firmly to the very edge of the car. Okay, so it lines up and is flush with the edge, and it should go right to the end, just like this. And then I will do the same thing for the other side. Okay, I'm going to flip it over so it's a little easier to see, and then put it on there, and I'm going to flip it over and then really kind of press down so that it sticks. Okay, so it looks just like that. Okay, and that's all we need to do for our car. Okay, and now I will set the car aside for a minute and I will pull out the cardboard. Now let's put a mark. Let's draw a straight line, about 2/3 the way across. And I'm just going to use a pencil and I am going to draw a line across just like that. And then, wait, I still need this. I'm going to measure out a piece of magnetic tape that is the same length as the wood. Okay. Now I'm going to put, let me rotate this. I'm going to put a little mark and I will cut it. Okay, we only need one so far. Now, with the first track, I'm going to peel the paper off and I am going to line it up on this pencil line that I drew, making sure that I lay it on the cardboard as straight as possible. Now before I press it down, I'm going to kind of wedge this up against it and make sure that I did a good job making it straight. And now I'm going to push. In fact, I can even put the piece of wood on there and really press down so that this is affixed. Okay, now I'm going to turn it like this. And now this next part is really important because we want to make, we're going to end up putting a rail right here, but I need to know where to put the rail. So that's where the car comes in. Now, you'll notice that when I put the car on the rail, it sticks. But what it's doing, if you look real closely, and in fact, so you'll see that it's overlapping to the side. Now, if I push this way, what it does is it goes and sticks and overlaps the other way. But when the magnets are directly over each other, they repel. That's because magnets, you'll see I've got these two magnets here, right? And have you ever heard the phrase opposites attract? Well, each one of these magnets has a plus side and a minus side, meaning that they're different polarities. So a minus side and a plus side. So when these two magnets get close to each other, depending on which sides they're facing, it will do different things. So if this is a plus side and it's facing a minus side, they will stick to each other. They will grab at each other just like that. But watch what happens when I flip it around, and now we have a positive side and a positive side, or it might be a negative side and a negative side. Now when I push them towards each other, they don't attract, but they push away from each other, right? They're pushing away. And that's the same principle here. So with the track, we want to find the sweet spot where this track or this car is floating above the track. Okay, and I will use this as a guide, but see how it's like this. And now when I press the rail to the side, I'm going to find a spot where it's actually floating up. Do you see that? Do you see? It may be hard to see on the camera, but it's not sticking. It's right above it. And if I hold up this end, it's not touching the track anymore. It's being repelled. So this is the point that I'm looking for on the track, okay, in order to place it. And if I just set it there, this is what's going to happen. So now I need to put the rail at this point. So I'm going to take my pencil and I'm drawing a line across where it sits, and I'm going to double check that it does the same thing all the way across. Perfect. Okay, so now I've got a nice line. Now what I need to do is I need to make my supports for the rail. Okay, so I want my rail like this. So I am going to, like I said, I'm going to use a glue gun. Okay, so I will, running out of glue. Okay, I got to feed it some more glue so I don't run out. Okay, now I'm going to put some glue like that, and then I am going to hold it and press firmly until it, there. So we got one down. I'm going to flip it around and do it to the other side. So here, there we go. Go to the end and press firmly. Let's move it back a little bit. Okay. Voila. Now, if you are using a ruler that's fairly flexible, then I would put a third one here in the middle. But because this is pretty thick wood, this is a pretty thick piece, I'm not going to worry about having a second or a third block. Okay. Now, what I want to do is connect. I want to glue this down right here so that when I put my car on, it's rappelling up just like that. Okay, so I've got my line. Now I am going to put glue on my squares and line it up with the line. Just like that. And double check that it's and I made a boo-boo. I did not, my line, you can see this, maybe right here, now it's sticking. It's actually sticking because I didn't get the fence in quite the right spot. So I'm going to show you a little trick. Let me zoom up a little bit. Okay. So this is too close and I need to move it in. So what I like to do is get this, it's this denatured alcohol, and you can use either a little syringe, or if you don't have one, I have a toothpick, I don't even remember what it's called. It's not toothpick, it's a cotton swab. Anyway, one of these things. Dip it in the alcohol and just sort of put it there. Did you see how easily that came off with that? Once, okay, it just pops it right off. Okay. So now I'm going to put that to the side. Now I'm going to want to let this dry for a minute. Okay, while the denatured alcohol is evaporating and drying, I'm going to go ahead and put the supports on my other railing. Okay, and you can see that the alcohol has now dissipated. So now I am going to try this again. I am going to glue the bottom of that, and I'm going to hurry and put it into place. And press until it cools down. Okay, looking good. Now let's test it. Oh, and voila, it's working. Now, one thing I would note is I would mark one side of your car with an X and then one side of your track with an X, because just the nature of how these strips are laid out, the side you test it on should be always the same side you're working on. So like if I flip it, look, it doesn't work. It just sticks. it sticks right on. Okay, so you got to flip it. Awesome. Okay, now from here we need to add our second track and our rail. Now you could do them in either order, but I find the easiest way to do it, or the most reliable, is to figure out how far the tracks need to be and then put the rail on last. Okay, so first let's measure. We'll stick it right up against this other one. I'm going to mark it and then cut it. Okay, now here's where it becomes a little difficult. So sometimes what I like to do is I'm going to cut a test piece, okay, that's about the same length of the car, because I need to know how far apart to make these rails, or to make these tracks. So I'm going to pull the sticker off, and I'm just going to, oopsie, XX. I got to line, make sure that you're always lining up you always have the car in the right direction. Okay, so I am going to just kind of eyeball it at first, stick it down, and I'm not going to press really hard, but I want to see, I'm looking to see if I have it lined up right. And if I do, the car will actually float. But see what's happening? See how it's pulling the car to the side? That means it's not right. So I'm going to pull it out just a little bit, stick it down again, and try it. Ah, there we go. See that? That is perfect. So what I'm going to do is put a mark on there, and then I'm going to do the same thing over here on this end. Kind of eyeball it, find out where it's floating well. Oh, look at that, first try. Okay, put a line, pull it off. Then I'm going to use the piece of wood. I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to line them up and draw my line. Just like that. Okay, so now you can see that I've got a line. Now I have a guide and know exactly where to put my tape. So I'm going to turn it to the side because that's easiest for me to work. I am going to not put this down really firmly yet. I'm just lining it up, starting from one end and going along. Now you want to make sure that it's straight, just like that, because if it kind of dips like this, then when your car is going, when your car is going along, it will have problems. Oh, see how it's sticking again? Okay, there's a couple things you can do, because we measured it and it was working perfect, but it's sticking all the way down. Let's flip it. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over, flip directions, because we probably just have our polarity wrong. There. Now I'm going to kind of okay, so it's stuck down there. Now X to X, okay, so I got it lined up and perfect. Now I'll test it. It's okay if it pops it all the way to the side, because we'll have, in fact, you can even test it with a rail, right? Because the rail will keep it up. The rail will keep it from collapsing. And look at that. It's already working really nicely. Awesome. Okay, so now we've got the orientation of the magnets. So now I'm going to make sure to press it down really well. And now the last step for our train is to put the last railing on. So once again, I'm going to line up XX. I kind of made my thing dirty. Okay, now I'm going to put it all the way up against it. But then you want to, see there's going to be, you want to lightly put it up against it till it's floating, but that it can move freely, and move it down. Okay, oops, because once again you want to mark it with a pencil. Okay, so I'm going to put a little mark right here. Then I'm going to do it again on this side. I'm just pushing the fences together and then to hold it up, and then I pull it out just a little bit until it settles, and then putting a mark just like that, and then it should work perfectly. Okay, and in fact, once again, I'm going to connect them by drawing, by tracing with my pencil. I'm just connecting the two lines I just made, just like that. The last step is to glue it on and see how it works. Oh, perfect. Okay, looking good. Now, let's give it a test. I'm going to set it on. It floats perfectly. Now, give it a push. Wow, did you see how effortlessly that slid through? And if you look closely, you can see, I'm trying to give you a good angle that you can see that they're not actually touching. It's floating above the railings. So we have now completed our maglev train, and you'll notice how effortlessly, once you do it right, once you tweak it enough, the train will effortlessly just glide down the track. In fact, this new one that I made glides even way better than the one I was showing at the beginning of the video. So awesome sauce. Now, don't get frustrated, because as I said at the beginning of the video, this is a more difficult project. So don't get frustrated. Just remember the several things that are important. Number one, spacing is very important. So follow the steps precisely as I laid them out. Also, make sure to orient the magnets correctly. If you test something and then it starts sticking, try flipping the magnet around and see if that works. So it just takes a little bit of tinkering and a little bit of practice. It took me 2 or 3 times making this before I could get a really smoothly running train. So don't feel bad. Just remember, you can keep trying and keep trying until it works. Okay? Now, a couple things to remember, a couple troubleshooting tips. If your train, now this one it's hard to show because it's working so perfectly. If your train tips to one side and sticks, then your fence or your rail here is probably too far apart. Notice how close, I'm going to show you right here, notice how close together. I mean, it's barely apart. I mean, you could probably barely fit a piece of paper in between those two sides. Okay, so they are very close together. Now, if the car keeps sticking, as I said before, if it keeps sticking, try flipping the magnet around, try bringing the fences closer, but make sure that they're not too close, because your car, there can be friction between the sides of the car and the inside of the rail here, so you might need to bring your fences or your rails out a little bit. Okay, and just follow the steps and have fun. And the final thing, I've showed you how to make a train. Now see how you can customize your train. Try making 2 little cars and hooking them together and see how that works. Or try seeing how much weight the car can hold. So as I put this down, it's floating, right? So you could put something on there and keep adding weight until the magnets touch each other and see how much weight you could hold. Or you can just decorate your car to look like a train. That would be cool too. You could paint it and add a little engineer, beep, beep. Anyway, I hope you guys have a fun time with this project, and I will see you later. Bye, guys.